I remember being a young lad, staying up late to play video games, only to be caught by my dad, who yelled something about not staying up late on a school night. I'd say, but I'm not tired, to which he responded, "Hi, I'm not tired, I'm Dad." I suppose you could say I was guilty of resisting arrest. Okay, enough of the dad jokes. Maybe. No promises, it's a long list. Not only are we partial to a few daft dad jokes, but we also have a soft spot for some of those lovable or badass dads in our favourite video games. With regards to complex and relatable characters, we're quite spoilt for choice these days. We've got amazing portrayals of strained relationships, steadfast and determined heroes, once broken characters finding hope and happiness after years of strife. And what connects these archetypes? Parenthood. Whether they are blood-related, adoptive, or simply strong pillars of support for our protagonists, they bear the title of father with honour. Of course, we could easily fill this list with all those hunks from Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, but that would probably be low-hanging fruit, or low-hanging bananas specifically. So let's have a look at some gaming father figures who definitely deserve a world's best dad mug, shall we? Alright, let's look at some! I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best video game dads. Number 10. Harry Mason, Silent Hill. Harold Harry Mason is rather bland compared to some of the other daring dads on this list, but his compassion and devotion sets him apart as a resilient and determined father that will stop at nothing to save his adoptive daughter Cheryl.
Daddy, help me.
He's no axe-wielding anti-hero, nor does he have the iconic beard that seems to be quite the trend amongst modern video game dads. He's clumsy, writes dry non-fiction books, and he's definitely not a competent warrior. But any father who takes more than one step into Silent Hill to look for their missing child deserves some recognition, damn it. It's literally a hellscape, full to the brim with nightmarish nasties and psychological torture. Harry has no idea what's lurking in the fog, eager to chow down on his tasty dad bod. Yet still, he powers onward, making up for his lack of physical prowess with remarkable courage. He devotes himself to his daughter's protection, which proves to be especially difficult with evil cult The Order, not only snapping at his heels, but eager to sacrifice Cheryl, aka Heather, to resurrect their demonic god too. If I had a nickel. He's a normal dude, a normal dad, but he steps up and doesn't back down when his daughter needs him most. If that's not the makings of an awesome father figure, I don't know what is. Number 9. ROST, Horizon Zero Dawn. ROST, fellow Nora outcast and adoptive father to Aloy, plays a major role in cultivating the skills of both his daughter and the player in Horizon Zero Dawn. His tutorial sections assist both narrative and gameplay by allowing Aloy and the player to get to grips with hunting the ferocious mechanical beasts of this post-apocalyptic land. He's a protector and a teacher, and takes Aloy under his wing when all others seek to shun her. As an outcast and ex-death seeker, following the murder of his wife and child, ROST was left with little but old, painful memories until joyfully taking Aloy into his care. He is a loving and strong character, continuously helping Aloy to achieve far beyond what others deemed her able to accomplish. Ultimately, he supports her decision to become part of the tribe, even though this means he will lose her, thereby putting her happiness above his own. Soon after this decision, however, he lays down his life to protect her during the attack on Nora Village, proving that he was still looking out for her even though the laws demanded that he, as an outcast, could not interfere. Nothing, it seems, would stop him from taking care of his daughter, even at the cost of his own life. Number 8. Asura, ASURA'S Wrath. Hell hath no fury like a father trying to look after his baby girl. Although the story may be a little obtuse to those who haven't studied the game's lore, one thing is perfectly clear. The demigod, Asura, is yet another dad who'll stop at nothing to save his beloved offspring. Unlike Harry Mason and ROST, Asura certainly has a bit more firepower to back up his actions, including inhuman levels of strength, superhuman speed that leaves him untraceable to the human eye, profound agility and dexterity, ice manipulation, thunder powers, shape-shifting, essentially all the powers that a dad wishes he had when their daughter's new boyfriend arrives to pick her up for prom. Our previous entries were limited by their physical abilities, but Asura gets to unleash absolute carnage in his journey to rescue Mithra. Okay, he's a raging ball of merciless vengeance as it is, but he's also a kind-hearted warrior with a strong moral code. He's a big old anime-haired teddy bear. He may have the strength to crush bones and pop skulls, but he's a big softie when it comes to his daughter. Beyond the abs and rage, not only is he a strong father, he's an interesting character in his own right. Number 7. Barry Burton, Resident Evil and Resident Evil Revelations 2. He's gruff, he's tough, he's buff. It's Barry Burton, our resident OG family man. There's 2 things that you need to know about Barry. Number 1, he is very anti-Jill Sandwich, which is a fair stance to take. And number 2, he adores his wife and kids more than anything. As Resi 1 reveals, his initial suspicious actions are in fact due to his attempts to keep his wife and daughters safe from Albert Wesker, so I suppose we can forgive him for that? But we can't quite forgive those awful line readings and lackluster dad puns, regardless of their legendary status nowadays. Alright, Barry?
Oh my god.
Well said. The nuances of his character and the relationship with his daughters are specifically explored and developed in Resident Evil Revelations 2, during which the player follows Claire Redfield and Moira Burton, or Barry and Natalia, as they traverse the zombie-infested facilities of Sushestvovane Island. I assume that's how you pronounce that. Fearing that Moira perished on the island 6 months prior, Barry sets out to find her without backup, intent on discovering the truth about what happened to his daughter. Not only does he brave hordes of zombies that, by the time he reaches the facility, have mutated into even more disgusting and deadly specimens, but he also has to endure the most torturous experience of all, having a strange and helpless child follow him around. Although his relationship with Moira begins as strained and difficult, they set aside their differences during the fight for survival, and by the end of the game, Barry has reconciled with his daughter and proved himself to be a father who will do anything to keep his family safe. Number 6. Eli Vance, Half-Life 2. Don't let appearances fool you. This old chap is actually one of the few scientists to have survived the Black Mesa incident, and for that alone, Dr. Eli Vance deserves a commemorative spoon or a mention in the local newspaper at least, but he's also a solid candidate for the Dad of the Year mug too. Let's find out why. Well, for starters, he's actually an emotionally competent father, which is something we can't say for a few of the more famous entries on this list. He's loving, devoted, and even builds a robot dog to help protect his daughter Alex from the pesky Combine. It's actually refreshing to witness a father and child dynamic without drama and baggage. The pair actually get along! Yeah, he adores his baby girl, but he doesn't smother her independent spirit. Oh yeah, and he's the maker of Gordon's gravity gun, for goodness sake. This guy is legitimately brilliant. Still not convinced? He's also the leader of the resistance against the Combine, and despite losing a leg in the service of said rebellion, he's still one of the most lovable and admirable heroes around. He's a mortal man trying his best under impossible circumstances. He's intelligent and inspiring, and unlike our next entry, doesn't have to rely on superhuman powers or godly wrath to protect / murder his family. Number 5. Kratos, God of War. Before you unleash your Spartan rage in the comments, we want to make it perfectly clear that we're not forgetting that Kratos murdered his first wife and child back when he was angrily stomping around Greece, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. However, this angry brute with a heart as frosty as Helheim really stole our hearts by the end of God of War 2018. Granted, he begins as a very hostile and prickly character, so far so Kratos, but soon learns to connect with Atreus on a deeper level. Boy soon becomes son, as he and Kratos embark on an emotional journey that culminates in the most epic double-team boss battle sequence we've ever seen. As a character, he was never really likeable, to be honest. The old games were fun to play, of course, and were very technically sound, but we never expected much emotional depth from the angry dude with the angry face and the angry knives chained to his angry arms. He was no model hero, and certainly no model father. However, now he's actually trying. Upon carrying the injured Atreus to Freya's hut during the course of the series' latest installment, Kratos' distress is utterly heart-wrenching. The savage, terrifying God of War can be seen trembling, anxiously pacing, and barely able to focus. This is the reaction of a loving father, not the warmonger we once knew. Overall, he is certainly not an innocent man or a perfect dad, but he becomes a better father and a better man thanks to the heartwarming relationship he has with his son. Number 4. KAZUMA KIRYU, Yakuza. It's well known that Kiryu has garnered praise and positive critical reception because, despite being part of the Yakuza, he is undoubtedly kind-hearted and undergoes satisfying character development throughout the series' narrative. During his design, the team likened him to a noble samurai that would often protect others in need, which truly sums up his characteristics perfectly. He proved his worth when deciding to care for Haruka Sawamura, and their relationship is seen to be one of the most important emotional centerpieces to his entire character arc. Upon doing so, he finally realizes his potential as a parent and is inspired to help other children in need. Later in the series, he opens an orphanage, thereby becoming a father figure to so many more orphan children. This doting dad eventually becomes a proud grandfather and once again exceeds expectations. He's got a caring and gentle side that makes him very relatable. Yeah, he can roundhouse kick any average human into oblivion, but he can also relate to players on a human level. He's not just a criminal, not by a long stretch, in prison or otherwise. He may have a sketchy past behind him, but his heart definitely lies with his family. Oh, but most importantly, he's pretty darn good at karaoke. Number 3. Joel, The Last of Us. The opening sequence of The Last of Us is haunting, to say the least. Joel's desperation is all too tangible, and the horrible sound of his daughter's dying gasps is nothing less than devastating. As far as we can tell from the information gleaned in Joel's family home, he was a devoted single father with solid work goals and ambitions to start his own business. Family photos reflect happy memories, hiking, holidays, carnivals, and attending Sarah's football matches. By the time Ellie enters the scene, Joel is broken and disillusioned. Let's face it, although he agrees to transport Ellie to safety, he's super abrasive. He scolds her, ignores her, and eventually tries to palm her off onto his brother Tommy. When Tommy refuses, Joel even resorts to violence. He tries with all his might to just get rid of her. But we wouldn't put him so high on this list if the story ended there, would we? Would we? No, we wouldn't. Ellie soon breaks through Joel's emotional barriers, and he, in turn, allows her into his heart. It's a rough journey for them both, and Joel certainly doesn't make things easy when it comes to warming up to him as a character. However, by the time he carries Ellie free from the Firefly's medical facility at the end of the game, the relationship has evolved far beyond that of a simple escort mission. He allows himself to love again, to be a father again, and turns out he's actually quite good at it, even if he had to kill dozens of people to keep his adopted daughter from being taken away. But that's not what's important here, okay? Stop focusing on that. Number 2. Lee, The Walking Dead. As it turns out, this list contains many examples of non-blood related father figures taking on the role of parenthood. And it's honestly refreshing to see the portrayal of family units that are true reflections of in real life relationships, which in turn are not always straightforward. Lee Everett is a beloved example of a caring adoptive father, with his protective relationship with Clementine being the most compelling part of the narrative, almost putting the whole zombie apocalypse thing on the back burner. Let's not forget, Lee doesn't have to take care of Clem. He doesn't know her, he has no loyalty to her family. Realistically, if he chose to leave her alone in that house in the first episode, no one would ever know. Needless to say, Lee excels as both hero and father. He's a complicated guy with a messy past, but no one can say he's a bad father to Clementine. He's believable and earnest, forced to face unthinkable decisions in impossible situations, but throughout them all, he puts Clem first. Although his character reflects the player's choices, one can't change his likability. Whether the player opts for harsh choices or not, Lee is still a shining beacon of fatherhood in a tempest of zombies and cannibals. Just like the original Telltale Studios itself, Lee will never be forgotten. Number 1. Geralt of Rivia, The Witcher. And the winner of Best Looking Dad in a Bathtub Award goes to Geralt of Rivia. Please come up on stage to collect your award. Oh God, put a towel around yourself. Geralt, please just put a towel on. Yes, it's the White Wolf himself. He's an absolute badass, so much so that one sword just isn't enough for this hunk of man meat. This fella needs 2. Yeah, he's skillful and fearsome, but he's also a doting dad. Of course, you probably won't see him taking Ciri to the cinema to watch the sing-along version of Frozen, but he definitely deserves more recognition as a father figure. As witches are sterile, having a family wasn't really on the cards for Geralt until Ciri came into his care. He guided her, taught her, and stopped at nothing to protect her from the wild hunt and those who would seek to cause her harm. Ciri, of course, didn't make things easy on Geralt. She's a whirlwind of independence and curiosity and surely caused Geralt to tear out his hair on more than one occasion. The pair are joined by destiny after all, and although not blood related, share a common fiery tenacity that unites them as one of the best dad and daughter combos in all of video gaming. Toss a coin to your Witcher, and a best dad mug to Geralt while you're at it. Not too hard. Don't make him drop his towel, please. And that's our list. Are there any other examples that combine heroism with fatherhood to create some compelling characters? Who do you think deserves the Father of the Year award? Let us know in the comments below, and feel free to add a few dad jokes for good measure. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and while you're at it, why not support the things you enjoy by having a look at our Patreon? Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.